the possibility of a human having more power than everyone else,
Right.
and how we treat that person. Some people worship them, and some people think of them as evil, and are afraid of them.
And
it's weird.
And some people give a lot of money.
Yeah.
To have somebody else tell them about their future.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, oh, yes, I can see into your future. Ooh, give me $100.
Right. And then there's the other side of it.
I'll tell you your future if you go to Patreon right now.
Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
I'm Captain James Kirk. Mr. Spock.
Your move, Captain. Jim Kirk of the Enterprise.
What's going on? I'm James Kirk. These people are my friends and my shipmates. Leave my crew alone.
Out of the question.
How about that? James Kirk.
It fits like a glove, Captain.
Oh, the bonehead ideas. Gentlemen, I'm Captain James Kirk. Get out of my chair. Get out of it now.
My greetings and felicitations, Captain. So good of you and your officers to, drop in. Absolutely smashing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a Star Trek podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Allie Ashmead.
Welcome back to another episode. This morning, Becca and I went and had breakfast with Sherry D'Souza and Shayna Rubio. I don't know if you know either of those names.
No, I don't.
They're both active in sort of the secular movement, the faithless community. They're both involved with recovering from religion. I think Shayna is on the board, and Sherry might be as well, actually. I think they may both be now. But Sherry's from Australia, and she flew in and is going to the fall excursion, the recovering from religion fall excursion. And we were booked to go to last year's, and because we ended up moving, we had to cancel it, and it sucked. So basically, like, you get together out in the, in these cabins that you can like rent by the bed.
Kind of like camping.
Yeah. But then they have like seminars and like things that, you can go on nature hikes with Dr. Daryl Ray of Recovering from Religion. And it's just like a really great weekend of community and bonding and, maybe a little therapeutic learning about yourself kind of stuff mixed in. Particularly helpful, I think, for those who came from like high control religions. Mm-hmm. So that's coming up. And so Sherry's here for that. She's going to be going to that. And so she flew in. And I just happened to see on her Facebook that she's like, oh, I'm in Denver. And I was like, you're in Denver? And you
that's awesome.
That's like a stone's throw from here. Why didn't you tell me you were coming?
Yeah.
Can we get together?
Yeah.
And so we went and had breakfast.
That's
and it
awesome.
Was so much fun. And it was interesting for me as someone who, like, I grew up in a, like, pretty basic Christian church, right? Not like swinging from the chandeliers, talking to snakes and stuff.
So no snakes? Oh,
no snakes. And my wife and Shayna and Sherry all are former Jehovah's Witnesses.
Gotcha.
Right.
So that's pretty heavy. Yeah.
So sitting at a table with three women who have come from that shared experience and having them like hearing their stories and watching. My favorite thing was when Becca was telling these stories that I've heard before about things that have happened. And seeing their responses as someone who came from the same place.
They're like,
that she came from.
that's.
And sometimes they were just like,
oh, shoot, they were shocked even.
Like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. That's the kind of stuff that it was very interesting to
that's cool.
Kind of be an observer to that conversation. So that was fun. That's what we did this morning. And then we went plant shopping.
Yay,
plant shopping. Patreon.com/humanisttrek so I can buy more plants. This place we went to, it was like, right, so it's not like the home and lawn and garden center at Lowe's or whatever. Like it's an actual plant store. And it was just the cutest place, but just full of like yard tchotchkes, the things that spin and like all kinds of decorations and pots and pot stands and all the things that you need.
Yep.
And then outside they have a plant section, and we picked up quite a few
Awesome.
little plants, but they had like, large quart-sized containers, and they like really expensive. And you kind of expect that from not a chain store,
Right.
but also then they were selling like starts that had rooted and taken. So what they do is the plants that they have, they take starts from, they grow those. And once they get to that,
They charge
then they
$50 for it or $100 for
so
it.
it was some of those little bitty ones, and we got from like $6 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I've decided that we're just going to grow a bunch of plants here. I'm going to put a little greenhouse right out behind the garage, right? It gets good morning sun, but not too bad in the afternoon. And
Garden?
I'm just going to take...
Are you doing a garden as well?
I'm
Not
just
just
going to
flowers.
take little... Yeah. I'm going to just... I don't know.
Grow your
like,
veggies.
how much, we're allowed to have. Like, is there a...
restriction?
I don't know.
I figure like it's in your backyard, surely.
No, nobody's going to come look.
Yeah.
But yeah. But all those plants, like if I can, take some starts and grow them into other little plants and sell them at like the flea market or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There you
I'm
go.
going to be a plant dealer,
Or
y'all.
give them to me so I can kill them.
Well, yeah, I could do that.
Because I will kill them.
So the first things on the list are catnip, serenali nip, and some of that cat grass. That's what we need.
Yeah.
Those three
I
things
want
we
to
need.
see. Yeah, I want to see how the cats act when they get that.
I would love to have a catnip plant.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like here in the house to see what the cat does.
I've seen their reaction on like YouTube and stuff, but I just want to see my cat.
We bought when we like the cat was little. We had just gotten her. We bought some nip spray, right? You can spray on anything.
I use that a lot.
She's like,
I use that.
whatever. She's like it doesn't even exist.
Oh, wow.
She doesn't go crazy for it. She doesn't. She's a weird cat.
Mine loves the spray, and I like it better than having to like have all the bits in the floor.
Yeah.
But I like the spray because they just go nuts.
I
But then
wish my cat would
gone.
go nuts.
It's gone pretty quickly. Once they get it in their nose, then they act crazy. But then, it's gone.
Yeah. Anything interesting going on with you lately?
Oh goodness. I have a problem with procrastination. I'm so behind on other things that I really need to be doing. Work with a nonprofit, so I really need to do some work there, but the only time to do it is on the weekend. And I guess lately I've just been trying to have a life, and so then I put that stuff off. And there's other stuff too that I need to do with work, and so like tomorrow I'm just gonna lock myself in the house and like not come out. Yeah, because I'm a terrible procrastinator, and I need therapy. I need to fix it.
Yeah.
Nothing else is happening with me.
I don't know that I procrastinate. Yeah, I guess I probably do.
You do.
Becca, final ruling. So
I think we all do.
Like, I got sick there for a while, and I have that excuse of I didn't get shit done.
Yeah.
And then it piles up, and then it looks daunting because it's like,
and then
it's
you don't want to
overwhelming.
do
Like,
it.
I don't even know where to start.
Yeah. I think it's one of the things.
Kind of where I think we're at now. Well, and even on like the moving in process, right?
Oh, goodness.
We still have piles of boxes that we haven't even opened yet.
Don't feel bad. I've been in my house for a year and I still have boxes.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's your house. You can take your time.
Yep. I'm having to learn that.
Yeah.
Right now, that like I was raised into a society that relies on your productivity as a good, so, as a valued good. And that's horseshit for a lot of reasons. Like, for one, there are people for many reasons who aren't able to be productive.
Right.
They can't go work at the widget shop for whatever reason.
Who's determining what productivity is?
And in this culture, we do not value those people. And that's horseshit.
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like we have got to come to some understanding of like, it's not about how many hours you put in at work. It's not about how many buttons you've pressed or widgets you've made.
Yeah.
Like, we have got to stop giving a shit about that stuff. And that's one of these things in Star Trek that I like, and they have addressed it head on of like, we don't work to afford the basic necessities. Everyone gets the basic necessities. We work, we do the things that we do because we want to better ourselves and learn more. And it's comes from within, a want to do those things, not from the external pressure of this capitalist hellscape. You have
to do it. And I think the feeling of, I have to do this kind of makes you procrastinate because there's not something you look forward to.
Yeah.
It's daunting, as you said, when there's something in front of you that just looks like, oh my God, this is going to be hard, or you just don't do it, or, but yeah. I don't know. I'm surely not the only person that has problems with procrastination.
Oh, of course not.
So,
well, let's not procrastinate any longer and get to our episode that we came to talk about today.
Yes!
It is Star Trek, the original series, season 1, episode 4, Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Sir, contact with an object. It's moving toward us. No visual contact yet.
Deflectors, full intensity.
Masuda, yes, Captain. Anything on your scanners?
It's coming at light speed. Collision course. Visual contact.
Anything, over?
All wavelengths dominated by ionization effects, sir.
All engines full stop.
We start with a captain's log, classic. The Enterprise is picking up a distress signal from a vessel that's been missing for over 2 centuries. So, easy setup on the episode here. What's this ship? What happened to it? What are we getting this distress call? What's going on?
200 years. A ship's been missing.
Yeah. Kirk and Spock are playing some 3D chess again, but Kirk's mind is on this distress call. And when Kirk and Spock play chess, Kirk has always got something else going on.
Right.
On his mind. He's never like in the game with Spock, I guess. But we get a little bit more of some of their like relationship character building. Kirk tells Spock he plays an irritating game of chess, and Spock's like, oh yeah, emotions.
That's a human. Irritation is a human emotion.
Boy, that's gotta suck. And then Kirk makes an unexpected chess move.
Yeah. And
Spock's like really puzzled by this. And this is where we learn that Spock's got a human ancestor.
This was interesting. This conversation kind of, I'm like, it had me questioning some things. Because Spock says, so after he points out that irritation is a human emotion, Spock says that one of his ancestors married a human female, which I thought it was his mother that married the human, or no, his mother was human.
Yeah.
Why didn't he just say my parents?
My mom, yeah.
What?
Right.
I'm like, or is it that they hadn't, built that part of his backstory yet? I don't know.
Right.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. And also, like, that comes up a time or two, whether it's McCoy giving him shit for being a, half-blood or whatever.
Green-blooded Vulcan racist. He's such a racist.
How much of that, like, the decision to make Spock half Vulcan and half human, not only from the story perspective to play with like emotion versus logic and the inner struggle that we all have with that, how much of that was like, your mom was black and your dad was white.
Right. I don't know.
Like any of that, like mixed blood or whatever bullshit.
I'm wondering why they did that. Maybe did they make him have so that we could maybe, like the audience could maybe pull him in a little more and like accept him.
Right.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know why they did it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it kind of worked.
Yeah.
For that. So then Kelso calls down on Skype. He's up on the bridge. They've got this object emitting a distress call in the tractor beam range, but not in visual contact.
Right.
And this is me nitpicking again, I know. And already, we just started the episode.
That's
but
right.
You're telling me that the tractor beam can throw farther than your visuals can see?
Apparently.
Because that doesn't seem right to me.
It's that they said it's too small to be a vessel. Right. It's 1 meter in diameter, and a meter is like, how many feet is that? That's pretty. It's pretty small.
Right. Yeah, not much size, and they were like not even enough, for a lifeboat, which was another naval term, right? We've talked about kind of the military language of the show.
Yeah.
Not, eventually it becomes like an escape pod.
Yeah.
So it was weird that they called it a lifeboat, I thought.
Yeah.
So we have this entire conversation about how it's in tractor beam range.
Oh, you're still. Let me.
I'm
go
still
ahead
on
and
this.
finish your nitpick.
In tractor beam range, but not visual range.
Mm-hmm.
And then we didn't tractor beam it in.
Right.
They used the transporter.
That was so stupid.
So why were we even talking about the tractor beam?
Good point.
In the first place.
Yeah.
And it's risky to bring something like this on board, right? Like,
right.
You don't know what it could be.
Transport something. Yeah, but
they decided to do it anyway because what the hell? And then, down in the transporter room, it's none other than Montgomery Scott.
Yeah, and so I think this is the first time we saw him.
Yeah, it is. This is his first appearance. And so then Scott beams this thing in, and he's like, "There be an old-style ship recorder here."
Yeah.
I'm not real good at Scottish.
No, that's good enough, though. But to me, I don't know what it looked like to you. It looked like some kind of, like, air duct fan or, like, an AC unit or something. It was just weird
I'll tell you what this thing looked like to me. It looked like somebody had taken Oscar the Grouch's trash can... Okay, like cut it in half.
Yes.
Right? And then stuck it on a tripod.
Yes.
Would you stop bothering me?
Absolutely. It had
some Oscar
3 feet.
the Grouch.
It had 3 feet. So yeah. And it was damaged then it turned on. There was a little dome light on top, and it suddenly started to turn on, and they go to red alert or something.
Well, they said he says like it looks like it's really banged up, and he hopes that the tapes are still intact. And I thought that was really funny. Like gives you kind of a window into what sci-fi writers in this era thought data storage might be like in the future. Still tapes. Well, for you kids out there, we used to store things on these. They were like flexible strands, and we called it tape. And you'd wind it up around these big reels. You know, and maybe it's easier if you Google that.
Oh yeah. Surely somebody out there knows what that is.
So then Kirk says, "We'll feed it through Mr. Spock's computer." Now, this was something that I don't think I ever really understood. Is there on the Enterprise a computer? The computer, so to speak, and then Spock has his own like 386 SX running something independently from the main computer. Like, why wouldn't you say, "We'll run the data through the computer"?
That is interesting. I don't think it's the first time he said that, so I don't know.
No, and it comes up like, you know, if they're trying to say through the science station, we'll run it through the science station. Right. And you could say it that way. I don't know. I just thought it was really strange that they do that several times. Anyway, Oscar's trash can lid lights up.
Enough already.
And it starts beeping and booping. And Scotty's like trying to transfer data across. And then Kirk says, "Flash the bridge." Have you ever heard that phrase before?
No, I think they must have been trying out some new phrases because I've never heard him say that.
Right. Yeah. Notify the bridge. Like, put everyone on alert.
Right.
He says, and then Kirk and Spock exit down a corridor, and we go to the theme. Now, do you think the red alert here made any sense?
No, because first of all, they didn't even question whether they should bring it aboard, did they? Or did they even have that discussion?
No. And that would have been like yellow alert. We're going to bring a thing on board, and we don't know if it's dangerous.
Let's go to yellow alert right then.
Right.
But no, they bring it on board. Then it lights up and then they react. I don't know.
But to me, I didn't get a perception of high stakes from this.
They weren't scared of it at all.
The thing starts beeping and he's like, "Well, it's broadcasting its data or whatever. It's transferring the data." Like, and then they go to red alert, and red alert to me should be a high tense, right?
DEFCON 4 something.
So like. Nobody said anything like, "Watch that trash can, she might explode," or anything like that. So again, the stakes just seemed way too low for red alert for me. After the theme, we get some shots of the crew scurrying around the halls. And then there's
that same hallway.
That same damn hallway. And then there's this really interesting overhead camera angle of Kirk and Spock entering the turbolift. And it was just, it was something I didn't recognize having seen in the previous couple of episodes.
No, never.
But I liked it. It was really neat.
Oh, cool.
So the turbolift doors are closing and another crew person jumps in. It's Gary Mitchell.
It's Lieutenant Mitchell.
So Kirk, Spock, and Gary chit-chat a little bit about Kelso sounding nervous when he called earlier, and Gary makes some smart comments about the chess game. So he was in that room while they were playing chess, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And this all kind of shows, they're comfortable joking around with each other and like they know each other.
Yeah.
So they step off the turbolift onto the bridge, and Mitchell relieves the guy at navigation, Mr. Alden. Did you notice that Alden is wearing a blue shirt?
No.
So I had to rewind it back.
So you're so good.
I had to do a double take. I saw it. And again, I'll preface this with, this was probably budget and they didn't have a ton of uniforms or whatever.
Right.
But like, maybe I thought this had been established by now and I was just wrong. But like,
Yellow
what I expect is the gold for command, blue is for sciences, red is for engineering and security in the original series.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wasn't expecting blue shirt science officer to be down at that chair. So maybe I was just ahead of the show in that sort of standard being set. I don't know. Kirk calls for the screen to be turned on. And I thought this was weird too. Like the main view screen on the ship.
Yeah, but
isn't it always on? Why wouldn't it always be on?
I forget what they were scanning for because I had a question mark. I'm like, what are you scanning for?
Life forms. Tiny little life forms. I just love scanning for life forms.
But they already beamed the thing aboard. So anyway, did you notice, like, as Lieutenant Mitchell is sitting there, look, there's another pretty blonde woman on the bridge. No idea at the time. She was just there, and she comes up behind Kirk.
Did you notice that Spock is at his station, and he's got like 1-cup DJ headset?
No, right? I did not. Yes, I did. Okay,
he's got some sweet beats playing in his DJ headset.
No, he's queuing up the next track.
Watch this.
I did notice that, but I just, because like Uhura does that all the time.
But so she has that little metal earpiece thing. Like she's got the Bluetooth and he's got the headset.
Yeah.
So we're approaching the galaxy's edge and they like all stop. And then he announces to the ship. This is good. He does like a shipwide announcement. And we know this because the sound guy cranked the reverb knob all the way up.
I know. They sound like they're in like a hallway or something.
Yeah. So we've discovered that the item is the ejected black box from a ship called the SS Valiant almost 200 years ago. And Spock announces that the tapes are burned out, but he'll try the memory banks instead. And I thought that was kind of a weird thing too, because... Like, right. Are you talking about like a RAID backup system here? Like the tapes back up to the memory banks? I was so confused on the tapes are the techno-babble here.
I don't think they knew. I think they were just making it up as they went along.
So you're a pretty woman. The department heads arrive on the bridge, right? And Kirk immediately fucks up Yeoman Smith's name.
Yes, he calls her Jones.
Pretty little white blonde girls all look alike, though, right?
Right. Let's not respect them at all by actually knowing their names.
Right. Sulu, having apparently been transferred from Little Shop of Botany, reports that astroscience is ready.
I don't know if
now he works in astroscience.
Botany have some kind of crossover.
They might.
But yeah. So there's.
And then Scotty reports that engineering is ready as always. And then Dr. Piper. Not McCoy and not
where the hell
the other guy. Like, this is another new doctor?
Yeah, like where did he come from?
I'm so confused. Now, what I didn't do, admittedly, as I don't research for these shows, the order that they were released is different than the order that they were produced.
Okay, maybe that's what it was.
So it could be that like
maybe they
there's
didn't have
a McCoy episode early, but they actually didn't have him
until later. Yeah, so Dr. Piper was a life science doctor, and that was a curveball.
And then we have Dr. Daner, and I had so much fucking trouble during this writing my notes.
Who was that woman? Sally Kellerman.
What is her name? No, her character name. Like I had the hardest time. Piper and Dana both.
Okay, gotcha.
I was typing my notes, tick, and then I got to Doctor, and I had to go scroll back up to be like, I don't remember what their name, either of them, Piper or Dana. I couldn't remember.
I recognized her immediately as Sally Kellerman.
Yeah.
But she was gorgeous when she was young. Goodness. Oh, she's still gorgeous now, or is she alive? I don't know. She might be dead. But she's like a statuesque, gorgeous woman. She's been in so many things.
Sally Kellerman.
Yeah.
She passed away February 24th, 2022.
Oh, she passed away this year. So bummer.
Like recent.
Darn.
Damn. Okay. So let's take a hot five to give a little Sally Kellerman tribute.
Yeah. That's right. She was Hot Lips Houlihan on MASH. If anyone ever watched MASH.
Yes, I did.
So
of course it was in, Nick at Night reruns. I watched all kinds of Nick at Night when I was a kid.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't have Nick at Night, but it was on regular TV when I was growing up. Like
that's because you old.
I know I am. Back when I had to walk across the room to change the channel.
Okay, let's see. She appeared on The Outer Limits.
Mm-hmm.
The Third Day. I don't know what that is. The Rogues. Don't know what that is.
Mm-mm.
And then in an Alfred Hitchcock Hour episode. And then she was on Star Trek, Breakfast at Tiffany's, Broadway production of Breakfast at Tiffany's, The Invaders. She was in a lot.
Yeah. No, she was in the film MASH, but not in the actual TV show. There was Loretta Swit was the Hot Lips in the TV show, but they did look a lot alike. I mean, they could have passed for sisters, but Sally Kellerman was in the film MASH, and she originally played Hot Lips Houlihan. Yeah, she's just in a multitude of different things.
Oh wait, that's not even all of it. That's
back
the 70s.
Back
okay,
to
80s.
School with Rodney Dangerfield.
Well, she hosted Saturday Night Live in 1981.
Nice. James Caan. She played with James Caan in Slither in 1973. She's on tons
Murder,
of
She Wrote. Yeah,
I love
she's in a lot of stuff.
So yeah, Sally Kellerman.
Yeah. Okay, so Sally Kellerman, Dr. Daner, who just joined the ship at the Aldebaran colony. So apparently they stopped at the colony at some point in the recent past, and they picked her up, and she's here for psychiatry. Do you think the captain would have meet with everyone that comes on board the ship?
Right.
Like anytime you get some new crew for whatever, don't you think the captain would meet them?
Yeah.
So she's being introduced to him that he doesn't know her. And I thought that was strange, but
yeah,
she's assigned to study the crew in emergencies.
And again, don't you think in Starfleet Academy that they would already be putting them through these tests in the academy and not like on the job, not OJT. But in order to get into a Starfleet command or assigned to a ship, you have to pass certain things.
Yeah.
You would think, but there we are.
Yeah, right. So Spock picks up some new beats, and Daner is really interested in finding out how the crew of the Valiant handled that emergency. And then Creepy McCreeperson Mitchell turns around and says, "Improving the breed, Doctor? Is that your line?" And I feel like we've heard this before, this improving the breed thing.
Yeah.
And I can't place what episode it was, and we were only on 4 or whatever. So, but I feel like I've heard that somewhere before. Maybe it was in the pilot. I don't know. But I don't like it. It's gross.
Yeah, it's like it's a put down for sure. And it was, I don't know if it was to her as a woman or just the fact that people's feelings towards psychiatry are just, they don't like it, and they don't like nobody wants to be head shrunk and all that shit.
Yeah.
So he was just kind of like, I felt like he was like flirting and insulting her at the same time. But but yeah. And she turned around and she's like, no, she heard that improving the breed was more his specialty. Like, burn.
And as she walks away, she overhears him mutter, that she's a walking freezer unit.
Mm-hmm.
My God, the misogyny.
Yeah.
It's 1960s.
Disgusting.
It's the 1960s. It's the 1960s. Come on,
Well,
Sarah.
it's still
it's not acceptable, but like that's who we were then, and I think again, like
it still happens.
Like the episodes in Star Trek, the point of pointing it out in the first place, is so that we will learn from it today. So
yeah. Now
drop that shit.
Yeah, I wonder if they put it in there just because it was something that was natural during the time, or something to call it out. You know,
it's hard to know.
It's
sometimes
maybe we think they're trying to call it out, but maybe they really just put it in there because that's just the way that things fucking were. Who knows?
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Well, when you're in the era still of, you know, like calling your secretary sweetheart and smacking her on the ass.
Smacking her on the ass.
Yeah. So Spock's picking up some deets now. The Valiant was swept away by a magnetic space storm, and their old impulse engines back then weren't strong enough, and they got pushed a half light year out of the galaxy. And then once they were free of the storm, they turned around and came back into the galaxy.
Right.
And then Spock says that the tapes are too badly damaged to make out much more, but the ship encountered an unknown force.
Right.
And then there were a bunch of requests for computer data about ESP in humans.
Scan the database for ESP.
Okay. So we got to stop here and talk about ESP. You got big notes on this? Because I got big notes on this.
I did. And I do remember as a kid, like, that was like a big deal. Like, oh, you've got ESP, or we swore we had ESP.
Yep.
And that was just a big thing back like 70s, 80s. But I know it was, you know, bigger then. But what you got? So
it is not a legitimate scientific phenomenon.
No. Well, at least not. It has not yet been proven that it is.
Right. The help me with the word. The
I can't. I'm trying to ESP.
Agreement.
I can't ESP your brain. I don't know what you mean.
The agreement of the scientific consensus. That's the word. The scientific consensus is that there's nothing to it.
Right.
Right. So I know it's an unspoken rule that we don't do research, but I did. So
I did too.
So what I think is important for the story and the themes that we're going to discuss along the way. So like ESP was believed to be like a sixth sense, right? Like think telepathy and psychometry, clairvoyance, empathic abilities.
Yeah.
And this was huge in the 1930s.
Yep. I did the same research.
So there was a study at Duke University, a couple of researchers, a married couple, I believe.
Joseph Banks Ryan.
Joseph
Banks Ryan and his wife. Now, this dude, he was a botanist. Did you know that?
I didn't know.
He was a botanist, but he started a parapsychology, he started a parapsychology department at Duke. So he wasn't even fucking
a real scientist.
Well, he was a botanist, not a brain
field, right? Yeah.
But he started that at Duke, and they tried testing for a bunch of stuff like psychokinesis and clairvoyance. And,
one of their most well-known experiments, you probably know best from Ghostbusters, is a scene where Venkman has a male student and a female student, and they're both hooked up to the little zapper machine.
Oh.
And he holds up these cards, right? And the card has like a squiggly line or three straight lines or a shape of a fish or a heart or whatever, right? And he asks them, what's on the card? You know, you can't see it. You should be able to tell me what's on it. And of course, because Venkman, right? Every time the girl answered anything, he was like, how the hell do you do that? You're so good. And then every time the male student,
he
buzzed him every time.
Hey! I'm getting a little tired of this.
Right. Yeah. That card test is something that they developed.
Right.
And that was a study that they were doing.
Yeah.
So that's the test. And it showed what they learned is that there is absolutely no evidence of ESP being a thing. Yeah. There's no measurable difference between their control and test groups. Right? They would sample an average set of people, and then they went to these people who claimed to have these powers and tested them. No difference. All of these different tests, and they come up with There's nothing there.
Yeah. And it's crazy how they were so fascinated with it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there is a phenomenon of like people seeming to know things that they couldn't know. Some of that is, sleight of hand.
It's got to be.
Like magic show stuff.
Right.
And some of that is, like you're very intuitive. People can be intuitive.
Yeah. That's really what it is.
But there's nothing like magic brainy stuff going on. So, but people have really still clung on to this idea about like these crazy powers. And some people might might have them or seem to have them. And so this sad bit of anti-science crap popped its head up in Star Trek 2.
Yeah, it did.
30 years later, right?
Yeah.
So I digress.
Kirk asks Daner, like, what do you know about ESP? And she says that she rated high on the ESP charts. So apparently it's something that you test for in Starfleet.
Yeah.
And so I guess they think it's to sense future happenings or...
And she says, and I wrote it down because I wanted to get the quote right. It is a fact that some people can sense future happenings, read the backs of playing cards, and so on, but the Esper capacity is always quite limited. It was hard for me to suspend some disbelief in this episode and like follow the story because the premise was just so not there for me.
But this is space and it's sci-fi, so they can do whatever the fuck they want,
Yeah, exactly. Look, you're gonna have to suspend some serious disbelief to get through the rest of this episode. So
100%.
And I'm saying that to myself more than anybody.
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, because the rest of it, just strap in, folks.
So Spock reports that the vessel was severely damaged. 7 crewmen dead. Now, do they count in our?
I don't know.
Our death count?
So I didn't know whether to count this because it happened 200 years ago. So I would say no.
Oh, right.
Because there was, so I didn't. I didn't count it.
That makes sense. It needs to be in
the episode,
present time of the. Yeah. Okay, that's a good.
Those are my rules, and I make them up I make them up as I go along.
That's why I wrote it down to ask you. So then Spock corrects, no, make that 6. So not 7, but 6. 1 crewman recovered, and that's when they started getting back into ESP.
Like the crew was like frantic to get information on ESP.
Yep.
When that got recovered.
Spock's dubstep goes to static, and the last thing he's got is destruct. It's a self-destruct order from the Valiant's captain. Kirk orders Mitchell to leave the galaxy, warp 1. They're going to go see if they can figure out whatever caused this.
Oh, yeah, let's go run after the same thing that happened to the ship before us that we're trying to,
and again,
with no precautions.
I know this is service to the story. They could have sat at their current coordinates for years and studied and like researched and whatever, but nope, this is wagon train to the stars. Off we go.
Yeah. Let's see what they're doing.
Yep. So they come up on this force field.
Oh my goodness.
But the sensors and deflectors are giving different readings on whether there's actually anything there or not. And then in another bit of fantastic sexism, there's this moment where they're like 12 seconds to impact whatever the thing is.
Are you going to say?
Mitchell turns around.
Yes, you're going to say what I think you're going to say.
Holds on to Yo Woman Smith like, oh, you.
She reached for him too. They both reached for each other. Did they like know each other? But
like biblically
weird. But he reaches back and she reaches for him, and they're like, I'm gonna hold on to you.
Hold me.
Right. Oh my goodness. It was like, what the fuck? I literally wrote in my notes, what the fuck? But yeah.
So they fly into this thing. There's some like lightning crackling and lights are flashing. And then a couple of the stations, like panels explode. Kirk calls for emergency stations. All decks on a fire alert. Shit's blowing up all over the place. Yep. So Kirk orders the helmsman to take them out. And Mitchell is now operating the console with one hand because he's still holding the hands with Yo Woman Smith behind him. I thought that was an odd choice.
Weird.
He's driving the ship and still like holding. I mean, I guess you can drive your car and you got your hand on your.
I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, because there's no steering wheel on a spaceship. So
that's true.
You just have to have your fingers on the right buttons. I don't know.
I take it back.
I don't know.
Dr. Daner gets zapped by something, and then Mitchell gets zapped.
And by zap, all they do. by Zap. All they do is like show them in like an X-ray. What do you call it when you reverse the color of the frame? I don't know.
Negative.
Yeah, they basically show them in a negative.
Mm-hmm.
And so something happened to both of them and they both kind of like fall out.
Kirk goes to check on Daner. Damage reports are coming in from all over the ship. Spock takes over navigation. Daner's fine. Mitchell's fine. Just kind of in shock.
Yeah. Daner comes to, she says it felt like an electric shock, but Gary is a little bit slower to come to, and he opens his eyes, and then that's when we see. Is that when he has he has the contact lenses at that point. His eyes are silver.
But first, we find out the main power goes out, and then we find out that the casualty count is 9.
Oh my God! They've killed
9 crew.
You bastards!
Got
so
them in
9 dead.
Yep.
I do have that. 9 dead.
9 dead.
And
yeah, they're both fine. Kirk goes to check on Gary. Gary's a little weak, but he's like, I'm fine. And then Kirk flips him over on his back, and you get this like fast zoom in on Mitchell's face.
Oh my God.
And he's got some serious Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds eyes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it's LSD eyes to commercial.
Lucy in the sky with diamonds.
So
I want to compare those two side by side too.
What?
Because I think that effect was touched up in the remastered version.
Okay.
I think it was made a little more like shiny.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It could have been because those eyes, I don't know. Did you do research on that one too? Because I did.
No.
The research on the eyes?
No. What about it?
So poor Gary Mitchell, he looked like he was in pain, or there was just like a lot of redness around his eyes, and it didn't look very comfortable.
Yeah, he looked like he was in pain.
And I was
the whole time.
Oh, so I had to find out, okay, what the fuck did they put in his eyes?
In the beginning, like for the first, I don't know, the whole second act, he's like barely opening them.
Right. Because I think they hurt.
Yeah.
So what it was?
Yeah, how'd they do it?
So they did have contacts back then. Albeit not very good contacts.
Right.
Because they're
bad for your eyes anyway.
Yeah.
They're probably hard contacts, right?
Yeah. They were early 1960s ones, which means they're hot, they're uncomfortable, they were hard, not the really soft stuff that we have today. And then they were scleral lenses, which means they covered more than your pupil. So they went up.
Okay.
But then what they did was they took 2 of them, they put some tin foil in the middle of and sandwiched them together.
Oh shit!
Then put a little pinhole in the foil so that they could, poor Gary Mitchell could at least see.
That's crazy.
So that's what they had in his eyes.
That's insane.
They're they're hard. The scleral lenses are harder than normal lenses, and they're larger than your cornea. They rest on the whites of your eyes, and so that's why this looked so painful for him. And then when you would see him tilting his head up a lot, and that was to try to see, because they did put a little pinhole.
Oh, but it wasn't lined up where it needed. Oh man.
So yeah,
that was
really fucked up.
I wore contacts for a large part of my life to date, but they were they're new soft
nice
contacts,
and
whatever.
yeah.
So I couldn't even imagine.
I couldn't even get one in my eye. I tried one of those ones, to change the color of your eye for Dragon Con and stuff, like one of my costumes. And I was like, I can't get this fucking thing in my eye. So I was like, oh, it's not meant to be.
Captain's log. Warp engines are out. They're traveling back on impulse. And now we have to figure out what happened to the Valiant, since both the Valiant and the Enterprise have both been through the same weird space cloud.
Right.
You know what I think? I think fucking V'ger's in there trying to find some whales to sing to.
Maybe he's singing to that man.
It's foreshadowing, kids. Stick with us. We might get there. We might get there.
Yeah.
So it did, though, with the space cloud thing. As they were approaching it, like it reminded me very much of that, like approach into the V'ger cloud.
Yep.
In the movie. So Spock's over at his station pulling up Daner and Mitchell's medical records. And here we go, looking at their ESP ratings.
Yes.
And Dr. Daner shows up on the bridge to report on the autopsies of the dead crew. All of them had the exact same area of their brain burned out. So she says she feels fine and Mitchell feels fine too, except for his fucked up glassy eyes, that fucking stoner.
Right.
And Kirk and Spock have now determined that the reason those 11 specific crew were affected is because they all have high ESP ratings. So they were the perfect
virtual
targets,
eye roll here. If only you could see my eye roll. But yeah, and that's why they feel like that's why they died. And Mitchell
Gary's
had the
is
highest.
Yeah. So Daner tries to downplay the ESP here, but Spock, the scientist, counters with people who can see through solid objects and start fires spontaneously. So Spock is like pro ESP. Now, okay, I'm suspending my disbelief because we're talking about ESP in humans, right? And that's what my big beef is. If you want to create a new alien that like Spock can mind meld and shit, like, okay, I'm fine with that. That's part of the science fiction.
And that's kind of like some kind of ESP in a way.
It is, right. So like, we're trying to figure out, are we dealing with like harmless card trick ESP, or is this something different?
Is it something sinister? Dun, dun, dun.
Down in sickbay, Gary Mitchell is laying in a bio bed, and I don't know if you caught this or not. He's wearing a blue Cobra Kai gi. Did you catch that?
I just thought it was a blue robe.
It's not Cobra Kai, but it looks like it looks like a Cobra Kai gi to me. Or I guess it was not the gi. It was like a sleeveless tank or something that he was wearing.
But he's fine except for his eyes, or seems to be fine except for his eyes. His fucked up eyes.
Yeah, it looked like a Cobra Kai thing to me, like what Johnny Lawrence wears, totally. Right? Oh, I thought that was interesting.
That's a good observation.
Johnny Lawrence in the sky with diamonds. He turns off a small view screen and rolls over to rest as Kirk enters the room. And then they have a little friendly banter. Gary says he's feeling a lot better than ever, and even getting a chance to read some of the ship's library tapes.
Yeah.
There was a dig at like hippie subculture here too, because he was like, "Oh, I've been reading some of that long-haired stuff you like," which very 1960s, and a dig at the hippie subculture.
Yeah.
Right, Herbert?
Oh, Herbert, you are stiff.
More foreshadowing. And then he describes Kirk at the Academy as a stack of books with legs. And for some reason, that is not at all what I think of when I think of Kirk at the Academy.
No, I feel like he's a player. You know, he's not a studious guy.
Right. He's the rule breaker, right? He's not following.
Yeah.
Gary Gary tells Kirk he had set up this little blonde thing.
That's right.
Lab technician to go after him, and that he had set the whole thing up. He'd arranged it.
And Kirk is like, "You planned that?" He had no idea. He's like, "I almost married her."
So then Gary says, "You better be good to me. I'm getting even better ideas here."
Yeah.
And that's kind of the first, like,
very threatening. Like what the fuck? Like,
right.
Just because you got ESP.
Well, that's like the first, I think, that we start to recognize that Gary might be in danger.
Yeah.
So he flips the view screen around to Kirk, where he's been reading Spinoza, and he says he finds him to be a simple, childish. Look, I'm not learned when it comes to this stuff, so I had to resort to research again.
I don't either. I don't read poetry. And
Spinoza was a radical Dutch philosopher in the 17th century. And Gary says he doesn't agree with Spinoza at all. And again, he's like, I'm fine. When can I go back on duty? Like, leave me be. And Kirk says he's going to have Dr. Daner keep him under observation. Right. Again, like, her job is to monitor stress reactions in people during. This is like a perfect job for her.
Well, Mitchell doesn't like her.
No.
She doesn't particularly like him either, but she cares more about ESPA than she does about him and his asshole comments.
Yeah, he says some shit about, oh, come on, Jim, there's almost 100 women on board. You can't do better than that?
Right.
Like, come on. And then as Kirk walks away, we get Echo on 10 again.
Yeah.
And as Gary says,
"Didn't I say you better
be good to me?" And then his voice changes back to normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kirk kind of whips around like, what was that?
Why are you evil? Yeah.
Yep. So Kirk's starting to notice. Gary clicks back on his little TV and starts rapidly flipping through pages. Yep. He's just flying through page after page. And Kirk and Spock are on the bridge watching this happen.
Yeah.
And this is not the Gary Mitchell we know.
Right. And he's reading lots, a lot faster. I can't talk today, but he's reading a lot faster. And Spock thinks, okay, he's already changing.
Yep. So Kirk's like, security watch on sickbay and run him through a full battery of tests.
Yep.
So we can find out what's going on with this guy. And then Spock walks away to carry out those orders. And Gary turns to camera and smiles.
Right.
Like,
he's looking at Kirk.
I know you're watching me.
Yeah.
Oh, that was creepy.
It's like kind of like what people do behind the two-way mirror.
Yeah, the mirror. Yep. Back in sickbay, Dr. Piper is shocked at how well Gary is. He's almost too perfect. Yeah. Piper's like, even like really healthy people have some shit going on.
Yeah.
Piper walks out, and then Dr. Daner tries to make peace because they had that whole thing on the bridge, and so there's some tension there. Gary says he's got nothing against her, and she's like, oh yeah? What about the walking freezer cold bitch comment you made earlier? And then Gary apologizes. But Daner says, and this is something I want to springboard out of, women professionals do tend to overcompensate, she says, which I think speaks not only to the times, but like here we are all these years later, and there's still something to be said for that.
Yeah, we're still having to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that we want to, it's that we have to in order to be recognized for anything.
Isn't that some shit?
Yeah.
Gary's tired of everyone asking him how he's feeling and expecting something to be wrong. And he leans back and he uses the force again, and he changes the biobed readings from normal to high and then back to normal.
Right.
And Daner's like, how did you do that? And Gary's like, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah.
And then he makes all the readings drop to 0, and he like collapses on the bed. Yeah. Like he's dead.
Oh, I'm dead. And she's like she goes to him to make sure he's okay. And he wakes up. He's like, I'm just joking with you.
I'm back alive.
Yeah.
And then his readings go back up to normal.
Yeah.
But just in time to have his face super close to hers. So we have another close.
That looks like something's going on. He's like, I can do other things too.
So Gary starts telling Daner all the other things that have been changing, right? He's been able to rip through the ship's library in half a day and remember it all.
Yep.
So Daner grabs a 3.5-inch floppy disk from the stack.
Here, try this.
He pops it in a disk drive and types install.exe. She asks him to recall page 387. And Gary starts reciting, my love has wings, slendered feather things, with grace in upswept curve and tapered tip. From the poem Nightingale Woman, written by Tarbold on Canopius planet back in 1996.
Woo! Back in the day.
Back in the day. The 60s. So I was a junior in high school in 1996. Other planets? Man, we were too fucking high to know what planet we were on.
Yeah.
And we were listening to Green Day and shit.
I was in college.
I mean, not me. I was a clean cut kid. I didn't become a stoner until we moved out here.
But. Yeah. I was in college. I at that point smoked weed once, but I was the studious one. Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, he's like, funny you picked that one. And he pulls her in close, asking her how she feels. And she's like, dude, I just fell. I'm fine. No big deal. And he's like, but are you sure? and then Lee bursts in the door.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, God. And they start pulling their clothes back on. And so they all make some small talk about how the repairs are going. And like Mitchell warns Lee about a starboard impulse packs being decayed. So like if you energize them, you're going to blow the whole deck. And Lee is suspicious, but Mitchell convinces him like, no, I'm being serious. So he's like, okay, I'll go
check it out.
I'll go take a look.
But he was like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
But then he says, well, he calls Kelso a fool because he knew Kelso had seen them and hadn't checked their condition. So
yeah.
And
Mitchell knows that because he saw that image in Lee's mind. So he's reading minds now.
He's reading brains now. Kelso tells Kirk and the crew about this. And then Spock feels like, okay, this isn't Mitchell anymore. He says it's mutating.
Mm-hmm.
And Daner, who's way too interested in ESP, she disagrees with Spock, and she's suddenly defending this guy that insulted her already.
She says, I know those from your planet aren't supposed to have feelings like we do, Mr. Spock. But to talk that way about a man you've worked next to for years. And Kirk cuts her off. So, like, that sounded very McCoy to me.
Mm-hmm.
That whole, like, hey, well, you green-blooded son of a bitch.
Exactly.
Not, you know?
They use any chance they get to be racist. Speciesist.
Yeah.
Racist.
Yeah. So Kirk cuts her off, and she turns it on him. Like, yo, you've known Gary more than anybody. Like, you guys were been friends since jump, and you don't even seem to care about what's going on with him either. So Kirk shuts down this whole line of conversation, and Spock asks Dr. Daner if she's noted Gary having any unusual powers, and she really downplays this.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, well, you know, he can control certain autonomic things, and like he reads really fast and retains more than most people, like really downplays this.
Right.
So Kirk asks Scotty to repeat what he was saying before Daner arrived, and he's like, aye, up on the bridge, laddie. The levers were moving and the buttons pressing themselves. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. I'm really not good at Scottish.
I think you did all right. I think you did. You did a lot of spitting, though.
I did a lot of spitting.
But yeah, I think you did all right. But
have you seen, oh God, what's his name in Hamilton? He plays the king.
Oh, yeah. I'll be back.
When he does
then you'll see.
What is his name? When he does his performance, he spits all over the fucking place.
He means to do that.
I know.
I love that. Go watch Hamilton if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. Oh, God. Hamilton's amazing. So Spock's been watching this thing the whole time, and Mitchell was smiling, clearly, you know, letting on he's the one causing all of this mayhem with the switches and the buttons. And still, Dr. Daner downplays it, but she acknowledges she did see some of these abilities.
Yeah.
And then she goes on a tear defending Gary.
Yeah, it's like she does not want to admit that he could be dangerous. Like,
right.
Bitch, what? You about to get everybody killed.
There's some weird shit she said here about a mutated superior man could also be a wonderful thing, the forerunner of a new and better kind of human being. Khan would like a word.
This is City Alpha 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After her outburst, Kirk turns to Sulu for some maths. He says his ability.
No, thanks, Sulu.
Yeah, no shit. But he says Gary's ability is increasing geometrically, and I had to look
exponentially.
I had to look up the difference. He said geometrically. I pulled it up on the thing.
I don't know why I wrote exponentially.
Geometrically and exponentially are very similar in the way the numbers compound, but they're somehow different. And I am not fucking smart enough to understand the difference.
Apparently, I'm not either.
There you are. But he explained it as having like a penny and then doubling it every day. And in a month, you'd be a millionaire. Mm-hmm. Do they still have pennies and millionaires?
No.
God, I hope we don't have. I hope we've done away with millionaires by then.
It's Latinum at this point. It's gold Latinum.
I don't.
But they don't use money.
No, here it's credits. There's like Federation credits.
It's like
in
all
the original
virtual.
series.
It's like
Bitcoin.
They don't use money.
Wow. Spock suggests that it won't take long for Gary to reach the level of power where they won't be able to contain it. Mm-hmm. So Kirk ends the meeting. Everybody leaves except Spock, and he lingers around long enough to point out that they'll never make it to an Earth base before Gary becomes too powerful.
Right.
And Spock suggests they set course for Delta Vega, a lifeless nearby planet with an automated lithium cracking station, whatever the fuck that is. But they might be able to take some of its power packs or something and use them on the Enterprise.
On engines. Yep.
But if that fails, they'd be stuck in orbit.
Right.
And while we're there, we could just drop Gary off.
Let's just dump his ass and get rid of him before he kills us all.
Or, Spock says, your only other choice is to kill Mitchell before it's too late. So we got to get rid of this guy or kill him one way or the other.
Yeah.
Kirk replies to Spock, will you try for one moment to feel, at least act like you've got a heart?
It doesn't matter because...
It's not in his nature.
Well, I mean, even if he's...
Oh, even if he feels for Gary, it doesn't change
the fact that he could kill everyone, and we look at what happened to the other ship.
Yeah.
And so...
And that's Spock says that. He's like, look at what happened to the captain of the Valiant. He probably felt the same way.
Right.
And look what happened to them.
Right.
So, convinced,
yeah.
Kirk orders a course to Delta Vega. The Enterprise arrives at Delta Vega, and Kelso is going to take an away team down to get some crystals or something to power the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Kirk and company will be transporting a friend of 15 years and strand him on this planet. Now, don't you think somebody with that kind of mental power would know that you're trying to strand him there?
Yeah, I would think so. But also, are they just afraid of him just because of what happened to the Valiant, or just in general, are we fear things that are more we perceive as more powerful than us? Or,
right.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, in sickbay, Gary's powers are growing. He's testing his telekinetic ability to move a cup across the counter. and this was the most very unlikely spigot on a starship ever, if I were giving awards, because they didn't even try to make this thing look high-tech future or anything.
No,
it was a little spigot sticking out of the wall, and the cup flew over there, and a little button pushed in, and the water came out.
They replicated food. Come on. Why can they just replicate water as well? But yeah.
That is a better question. Damn it, I didn't even think of that.
But
Good one.
but you're I didn't even think about the faucet thing. But yeah, they've got a faucet on the ship.
Right.
So yeah, so the cup flies across the room just as Kirk and Spock and Dr. Daner walk in.
I actually liked the effect.
Yeah.
Like I felt like the cup effect.
I wonder if they did that like with a string. I forget how they used to do that back then, because there was plenty of shows where they did that
levitating
that kind of thing.
Stuff. Yeah.
I think it was a string.
Some of them, yeah. I think they executed it really well, because a lot of them, I think, like it would like kind of warble around in the air,
dance along,
where this was like it floated across the room. So I don't know what they did, but I thought it was a really good effect.
Good job, crew.
For a physical effect. The cup's full of water. It floats across the room. Gary starts to describe to Dr. Daner and Kirk and Spock like what it feels like, and he says it's like a person who has been blind their whole life suddenly being given sight. And then he starts to like throw the cup back across the room, and Kirk grabs it.
Right.
Gary tips his hand a bit here too. He says, some people think that makes me a monster, don't they, Jim? Because
he senses the worry in Jim, and because Kirk is worried about the safety of the ship. But then he goes, he's also reading Spock's thoughts about killing him and like offing him.
And he's like, well, what would you do in my case? You know, Kirk's like, what would you do if we were in different places, Gary? And Gary's like, I'd probably do what Spock's thinking right now and kill me before it's too late. So Kirk goes to move on Gary, and Gary like holds out his hand and shoots some hand lightning at him.
Yeah, lightning. We love hand lightning. He already knows that they're orbiting Delta Vega, and he already knows their plan. Like, of course.
Yep.
He's clairvoyant. He doesn't want to leave the ship yet. He says he may want another place because he doesn't know what kind of quote world he can use.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that he wasn't objecting to being left somewhere.
Right.
He was objecting to being left at this particular somewhere.
Right. Yeah, because he's power tripping now. Mm-hmm. He's power tripping, and
put me wherever you want, and I'll take off.
He's running his mouth, and he's power tripping.
So he stands up and he walks like kind of between Kirk and Spock towards Dr. Daner, and he's talking about like ideas of godhood. So he's really got the power trip.
Yeah,
he thinks he's a god, and Kirk lands an elbow right in his ribs.
Yep,
kind of knocks him off balance. Spock gives him a punch to the gut, and then Kirk gives him like a solid right hook, knocks him in the face.
I'm surprised they didn't do the Vulcan pinch.
Right. I don't know when that was established.
Yeah.
But you know what? remember that because it might come up as a question.
Okay.
In our cadet challenge. That sounds like something she would use.
Yes.
What's a thing that happened that has happened there? So they pin him down on the bio bed, and Kirk says, I want this guy unconscious. And then Daner hits him with a hypospray sedative.
Yep.
Now, this hypospray. This looks a lot like a plunger syringe.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice that?
I don't remember what it looked like, but I thought, okay, they've got that didn't change. The hypospray hasn't changed throughout all series.
Other than like, I felt like this was like a plunger, like a push down a thing.
Right. The actual
like
instruments
in the future
changed,
they operate differently, yeah, but
the hyperspray itself the name, the concept would stay the same, but what they use is that's definitely changed.
So I don't remember if they're using this like giant syringe thing or if that changes throughout the original series.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm interested to find out. I should write that.
We should find out.
I should write that on a list of things that I need to remember to think about because I will forget that we had this conversation by the time we get to the next episode.
We could just go and listen to this again.
Oh yeah, we could do that. So also suspended disbelief here. They've physically restrained a guy with mad mental powers.
Yeah, with a sedative.
Yeah, and they're holding him down for several seconds before the sedative arrives and is administered. Like, he could have pushed them away with his brain at any moment.
Yeah.
So that I had to suspend a little disbelief at that moment,
they had to figure out a way to move it along so that they could get him off the fucking ship.
Get the story on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here we have yet another person we got to get the hell off the ship.
Yeah.
Before he kill everyone.
There's a theme in this season.
Yeah.
So we jump to the transporter room, and again with the disbelief, Kirk and McCoy are carrying Gary between them, and I know that's a hard thing to do, and it's a hard thing to act. But Gary is obviously moving his legs, so and maybe that was intentional. Like I couldn't tell if by like sedate him they meant knock him clean out, or just like we can like. 50% sedated, like, so I don't know. And as they walk up onto the transporter pad, Gary like sparks back to life.
I was like, damn, he's awake.
And they shoot him again. He says, I'll squash you like insects, you fools.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that.
And then Dr. Piper goes over and gives him another dose of sedative. And I wrote down, because it was happening at the time, I'm having a really hard time keeping all these damn doctors straight in my brain. Like, again, I had to scroll up and Dr. What's his name? Because we haven't seen him. And then a bit more disbelief. You have to stand on the transporter pad and not touch each other. Now that changes later, of course. But
so how did they
based on the visual that we've seen so far, it appears that the rules are you have to stand on your little pad and then you can't touch each other. So they stand Gary up and put their hands down.
I didn't even see that.
How did he keep standing? I don't understand the sedative.
I need to obviously pay attention and not be under the influence when I watch the show. But yeah, that's interesting.
Scotty transports Kirk, Spock, Daner, and Piper down with Gary, and they meet up with Lee. Lee thinks he's got it figured out. They'll be able to get something to power the ship.
Kirk asks Kelso, which is Lee. I call him by their last name. But he asks Kelso, hey, is it possible you can set up like a self-destruct
that
place
was weird too.
In the control room? And Kelso says, yeah, he can rig one. So I guess Spock is thinking ahead in case he has to blow the place up. Yep. But yeah.
Gary's off in a room, and it's a room with a force field. He's regained consciousness. And I note this later, but why did they think a force field would hold this guy? Yeah. Again, he seems to have like some serious powers.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I don't know if this was just due to like the remaster. We kind of talked about this, but I feel like his eyes here are even crazier than they were. And maybe that's like his growing power, or maybe it could have been the copy, the
like
transfer.
You said, it could have been the remaster.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, they looked really painful. He looks like it was painful.
Yeah.
And I was like, ugh, get this aluminum foil out of this guy's eyes. It's awful.
Right? He has so much screen time.
Yes.
He's in these damn contacts the whole time. He's the center of the episode.
Yeah. I mean, but they were probably pretty impressed and patting themselves on the back for look at these special effects we did.
No kidding. So Gary starts recounting old stories of how like he took a poison dart that was meant for Kirk and he almost died. And so like basically we're just trying to say like, we're friends. Why don't you trust me?
Why don't you trust me? And
And Kirk gives him some examples. Why? Well, you compared us to insects earlier and said you're going to squash us.
And you've been testing out your shit on the ship controls. And so.
And Gary's like, look, when I told you were insects, I was high, man. I
didn't mean it.
You can't hold that against me when I say when I'm high. Yeah. And then Kirk says, you said in sickbay, you said, if you were in my place, you'd kill a mutant like yourself. Right. And Gary is like, well, why don't you just kill me then? Spock is right. You should. Mm-hmm. So again, like we've had 2 warnings. Like this guy's like, I'm powerful. You should just kill me now while you have the chance.
Last chance. But
we see some humanity still in this person that we want to try to pull back. Like they're not, we've talked about other things that people that get like too far outside of the normal bubble.
Right.
And we're like, oh, wait, pull them back in. Like you're still a human.
Yeah.
I think we talked about sending people to jail and locking them up, throw away the key kind of thing. Here we are. We're not killing him. There's still some humanity in him.
He didn't plan on killing him, but he had that contingency just in case.
Yeah.
But,
My favorite thing is like, look, Kelso, you better go get yourself a red shirt because we're probably going to need you to push that button. He's like, why me? You're like, no, it's got to be you.
Like, damn.
We just don't have anybody else on shift right now, and it's got to be you, man. So he starts describing how man can't survive if a race of true espers is born. And then he walks into the force field and it doesn't seem to like phase him at all.
Well, it keeps him from going through it, but he's just like purposely sticking himself to it. And he just like kept
trying
doing
to break free or something.
Yeah, and kept doing it to where it finally knocks him out for just a second and his eyes go back to normal for just a small second.
Yep.
But then they go back to the aluminum foil eyes.
LSD back in Gary's eyes. He stands up slowly and walks back towards the door. He says, look, I'm just going to keep getting stronger.
Yep.
So the stakes are set and we know this guy's a problem and we just haven't figured out exactly what we're going to do about it.
Yeah.
Back on the Enterprise, Scotty very simply sits this widget from the planet into a perfectly shaped rectangular hole in the console on the bridge.
And that's the power something.
And it just fires right up. Everything's great. So he radios down to the away team to let Kirk know, like, hey, everything's good. By the way.
Oh yeah. We've sent you special delivery, a phaser rifle that they sent down.
Do you happen to get that phaser rifle? And Kirk's like, what phaser rifle?
Kirk's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And Spock walks in with the rifle. So this is something Spock asked for because he is like ready to kill this motherfucker. He's like, okay. I'm ready to kill him.
And this was a hilarious 1960s prop.
Looks like a water gun looking thing, I guess. Yeah.
Spock and Kirk have another rap battle about whether he's really as dangerous as Spock thinks. Like, how do we know Spock is right and Daner is wrong? And it's logic for the win, right? Spock's got it all calculated out. The odds are we're barely going to make it out alive as it is. Dr. Daner has some feelings for Gary of some sort, whether that's romantic or interest in his ESP, whatever.
Who knows?
But that's impairing her objectivity.
Right. Because Spock says it's because she feels, and Spock doesn't know what that means. All he knows is logic. It's logical to be like, okay, we need to get rid of him before he kills us all.
Yep. And then Lee's at the self-destruct button and Kirk orders him.
Yeah.
If you feel like this is the last chance, hit that button.
Yeah. And is he essentially ordering him to kill himself or kill them all or
right. Is there a delay long enough to transport up?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
I wasn't clear on that either. Because if it is asking for a sacrifice, that should have been made a bigger deal of.
Yeah, agree.
The away teams are beaming back up now that the Enterprise engines are fixed. Mitchell keeps getting stronger and stronger. Kirk, Spock, and Dana are also preparing to beam up, and they plan to leave Kelso at that button until the very last minute. Like,
poor Kelso.
Canary in a coal mine, man.
You're fucked, Kelso.
So Dana says she's going to stay behind. She wants to stay with Gary. And Kelso is on his StarTAC flip phone talking to Scotty. And while he's distracted, Gary uses his mental powers to levitate what looks like rubber hose or something.
It's an electric cord, I'm assuming an electric cord. And
flips it over his head.
Poor Kelso, chokes Kelso out.
Oh my God, they've killed
Lieutenant Kelso.
You bastards!
Kirk is ordering Dana to return to the ship, and she's still arguing that Gary isn't evil. Gary, again, third time now, says you should have killed me when you had the chance, and he zaps Kirk with some lightning. And then Spock moves in and tries to get a shot off with the phaser rifle, but he gets lightning zapped too.
So he electrifies Kirk and Spock, and then he takes Dr. Dana and into his cell, and for some reason they show them suddenly looking into a mirror, and now her eyes are
Lucy in the sky,
aluminum foil. It's time for a barbecue because they both have aluminum foil eyes now.
Dr. Piper arrives out in the main hall, and he finds Kirk and Spock are knocked out. So he pulls Kirk up and he puts like a pill in his mouth.
Yeah, I was like, what? Like, just give him hypo spray.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is this?
Like, is this smelling salts for your mouth? Or like, I don't know, what is this? Spock's alive, but Kirk tells Piper don't wake him up.
Yeah.
Don't give him a pill until I'm out of here.
Yep.
And like an idiot, Kirk's decided he's going to go on this alone. Right. He tells Piper, take Spock back to the Enterprise. And then if you don't hear from me in 12 hours, get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. So he takes the rifle the phaser rifle that Spock had gotten.
Meanwhile, in Carved Foam Canyon,
across the valley,
Gary and Dr. Dana are wandering around talking about how impossible it would be for anyone to survive on this awful planet.
Oh my gosh.
And so Gary's like,
behold, which is so stupid.
So stupid.
Because, okay, once you become a god, you talk like that. Like, oh, you say stuff like behold and let there be, I guess.
He never would have said behold as old Gary Mitchell.
Right.
No. But he creates this beautiful little pond, and there's some flowing water.
And garden.
And some bright colored plants all around.
Supposedly some fruit.
Mm-hmm. And Mitchell says that she will soon share in his godlike power. So Kirk is sneaking up behind them with the phaser rifle, but Gary detects his presence, because of course he did, and causes a rock to fall near Kirk. But it just Kirk was holding onto the rock, and there was a rock next to him, and the rock next to him rolled down.
Okay.
It didn't seem like.
I don't know that did Mitchell do that. I didn't think he did.
I think so.
But so Mitchell senses his presence, and then Dana, I guess he's trying to train her, and she sees him in her mind as well. But then, so Mitchell tells Dana to go talk to him so that she can see how unimportant they, quote unquote, they, meaning humans, are.
Yeah, I'm a god now, and I don't need them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Let's kill. And we know
you'll soon understand what that's like.
Right. Yeah. And we know what gods like to do. They like to kill everyone.
Yeah, of course.
Wait, there's books about it. I think there's some books about it.
There are some very popular books about it. Yeah.
Anyway.
So Dana finds Kirk, and they debate the finer points of whether she's still human or not, whether it even matters, and how much farther advanced they'd be if they just left alone.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk kind of keeps trying to turn her back, right? Like, he's using her compassionate nature against her. He screams, above all else, a god needs compassion. So she's been compassionate this whole time about Gary and what Gary was going through, and now he's trying to kind of use that on her.
Yep. But he also tells her to be a psychiatrist, because that's her profession. And think about what she sees happening to Mitchell. And he asks her to just hang on to being human just a little while longer.
Yep. And again, that pulls me back into that idea of like people at the edges and recognizing their humanity and trying to bring them back in.
To like not thinking that they're too far gone that they can't be saved.
So
somehow.
Gary shows up. Kirk does a bit of like a tumble roll thing and shoots the phaser, and which of course does nothing. And with a wave of his hand, he force pushes the phaser rifle out of Kirk's hands. Gary says he's contemplating the death of an old friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very confused here because the camera cuts away. Like we know he's talking about Kirk. Mm-hmm. Then the camera cuts away to this rock formation. And I swear to God, I was not high when I watched this.
I might have been.
I swear there was a face in the rock.
Huh. Okay, now I have to
and
go
I
back.
was very confused at like, why did we cut away to those rocks? Now they fall later. Like
right.
That's why we cut away to them. But by just the looking at it, I would never have thought like,
okay.
I thought there's got to be something here that we're signaling like
maybe it was just foreshadowing of hey, this rock's gonna fall.
It was. I just don't understand it though. Hang on, I'll pull it up for you. I'm thinking about an old friend, right? And it cuts to this pile of rocks, and that because
that's why he's thinking about an old friend. And he's thinking about smashing that old friend. Right. I mean, I don't know.
So they cut away to this pile of rocks, and they're not like rumbling yet or anything. There's nothing that you haven't seen the grave. There's nothing that signals these rocks are going to fall and kill you to me. So I don't know. I just missed that. But anyway.
Yeah. I don't know.
We cut down to the grave, flip those two shots. And I think I would have been fine.
Maybe that's what they meant to do.
Like
because
I see the grave first and then we pan up to the rock above it.
He created a grave with Kirk's name on it. Yes. A headstone with Kirk's name on it.
Now, don't know how much research you did for this one because we don't do research, but old time Trek fans will know that the tombstone says James R. Kirk.
Oh, I did not. Oh, so because his name is Tiberius.
It's the next scene. We pan down, tombstone, and it says James R. Kirk.
Because we know that his middle name is Tiberius, and it's always been James T. Kirk.
But it hasn't.
Interesting.
Yep. Originally, it was James R. Kirk, but they didn't change it to. First, they changed it to James T. Kirk, but T didn't stand for anything when they first made that change. It was just James R. Kirk as a thing to say, as
something
you address someone.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound, the R is less, it's not as like a strong.
Sharp. It's not sharp or strong.
The T, James T. Kirk. So they changed it. Yep.
That's a nice little bit of trivia. And I'm glad Becca if she'd have come up with that, I still would have got it wrong. I did not know that.
That one I knew.
Yeah.
She was like, okay, I have all my questions. And I'm like, you're not going to fucking tell me because you don't want me to think about it or look it up or whatever. And so don't tell me that you're done. Don't even mention it because then it makes me want to know. And I'm like, it's not the tombstone, is it? And she was like, nope. And then she was like, what tombstone? And so then I had to share that little nugget with her.
That's a really cool tidbit.
Daner, recognizing that Gary's out of his fucking mind, tells him to stop. And Gary says, morals are for men, not gods.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a popular book about that.
Yeah.
Kirk makes one more appeal to Daner to find her humanity while Gary commands Kirk to pray to him. And he uses the force to make Kirk bow down.
What does that do? That does nothing but stroke his ego. He's getting powerful.
Yep.
And he's like, pray that he dies easily. He said, you need to pray that you die easily. And so he makes him go to his knees.
Yep.
So.
And, fantastic Shatner overacting, here.
Yeah.
He's falling to his knees and he's got his hands up and he puts his hands together in prayer.
Yep.
Yeah. Great classic Shatner. Kirk calls him a jealous god, if he even is a god.
Right.
And that reminded me of something I've read about
too. There's another book too about a jealous god. Yeah.
Yeah. So he makes yet another appeal to Daner. Do you like what you see? Is this what you want? This is where we're headed, right? So he talks about absolute power, corrupt absolutely. Daner shoots lightning at Gary.
Finally, bitch is waking up like Jesus.
He shoots back, and they kind of back and forth a little bit until they're both on the ground and the LSD has left their eyes. This really reminded me of a video game boss fight.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, so you have the super powerful boss fight, whatever. And then, and once you knock out whatever, there's some,
then you
armor
can
or
take him out.
Yeah, then you run up there and just like hack and slash.
You got to hurry up.
Yeah.
Because he will regenerate.
Exactly. That's what this reminded me of.
Mitchell is the big boss, yeah.
He's knocked out and his superpowers are gone. And his HP, go knock his HP out with your hack and slash.
Kirk is about to literally smash his head with a rock.
Yeah.
And he's poised over him, but then Mitchell comes back and he's got the silvery eyes again.
Yeah. And Kirk tries to throw a punch, but he's easily blocked. Gary picks up a big boulder. Looks like it weighs a ton. And before he smashes Kirk, Kirk jumps at him and both men fall into the grave. Again, I think Gary would have anticipated the jump.
Right.
But I digress. Kirk jumps out and makes a run for the phaser rifle, shoots at the rocks above, which traps Gary in the grave and presumably killing him.
Forever. We don't know. We don't know for sure if he's dead.
Are we counting him or not?
I did.
Death count?
I did.
Okay.
Simply,
I would have too.
Simply because when we get to that, yeah, I did count him.
Oh my God! They've killed
Gary Mitchell.
You bastards!
Now, I have a bit of a fan theory here. If you'd like to hear it.
Sure. Yeah.
So I tweeted this out last night and tagged Akiva Goldsman and Henry Alonso Myers.
Who are they?
They are the showrunners for Strange New Worlds.
Oh, really?
And I asked, will we see Gary Mitchell again in Strange New Worlds?
Oh, really? Because I don't necessarily believe he's dead, but I mean, he could very well be.
So in Strange New Worlds, we're with Pike before the original series in the timeline. Gary and Kirk were supposedly academy buddies.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And in Strange New Worlds, we meet Kirk as a lieutenant.
Right.
So it's very possible that they're serving together. It's very possible that we could see
Mitchell.
Yep.
Okay.
That we could see him again.
That would be kind of cool.
Before the events of this episode.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Now, I did not get a response.
Oh.
Because I'm not Twitter famous yet.
Well, yeah, I'm not either, and I got to work on that, but yeah.
But it's because I'm an old person. I'm a Facebook person. I don't do Twitter very well, but I'm working on it really hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So if you're not watching Strange New Worlds, my God, it's so great.
It's amazing.
Please go watch it. I think it's very possible we could see Gary again. Or I thought a couple of other ideas. It might be fun if Kirk and crew show up after the original series timeline, right? 18 years later or whatever, they show up at Epsilon Vega. And there's old Gary Mitchell, alive and well. And he's like, Epsilon Vega was destroyed. This is Delta Vega. And Kirk's like, Gary!
And con.
It's the same fucking story.
Yeah.
Super powerful dude stranded on a planet.
Yeah.
But the twist here is we think Gary's dead.
We don't know. It could be.
We don't know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
They could go back and they could find him super god.
But I like that. But then if he is super god, he would find a way to leave that planet.
Yeah,
because he's a thirst for power. One planet's not going to hold him.
That's true.
But who knows?
Anyway, I also thought lower decks going there might be a fun thing.
Oh, yeah.
In the future, revisiting that planet.
Much more fun.
I think they can do that. Anyway, Gary's in the grave and Kirk
tangent.
Kirk trudges over to Daner, who's laying in a prone position, and Kirk goes up to her and gets way too close to her face again. We're doing a lot of close face acting here. Daner apologizes. She says, you can't possibly know what it's like to almost be a god. And then she collapses on the ground.
Bye, girl.
And dies?
Yeah.
Oh my God! They've killed
Dr. Daner.
You bastards!
Of what, though?
because I guess
he fell in the hole in the rock. And
I guess
all of that.
Mitchell shocked the shit out of him, and she was weaker than him anyway.
Oh, that's true.
So
it was the force lightning.
Yeah, they were shocking the shit out of each other, and they
yeah.
She was weaker than him anyway.
So Kirk flips out his StarTAC and he radios up to the Enterprise.
Yep.
The button on this episode, we're back on the bridge, and Kirk adds to Ali's death tally here. Formerly.
And I was going to say that is why I included him in the death tally, is because Kirk
recorded him as dead
in his log.
Yeah,
yes, and he said
not missing. Dead.
They both died in the line of duty, and that's what he was going to say.
I like that moment because he wanted to leave his service record clean.
Yeah,
because Gary didn't ask for any of that shit to happen to him.
Right. Neither of them.
And technically, if you want to put blame, it's Kirk's fault that it happened to him.
It is Kirk's fault because
Kirk's like, let's go out of the galaxy and find out what caused this.
Yeah, well, let's beam this thing aboard. Come
all
on.
Of that stuff.
Yeah. So,
but we're not counting blame. Spock says, I felt for Gary too.
Yeah.
I felt for him too.
Yeah.
And Kirk's like, I believe there's hope for you after all, Mr. Spock.
He didn't say he didn't feel.
Right.
But he just doesn't
He's not
convey emotion in the way that we're not all, he's not all gushy and shit like we are and irrational.
Yep.
And he's just logical about emotion.
Yep.
Is all.
And we delve a lot more into that as we go along and learn more about his human and Vulcan halves fighting against each other, right?
Yeah.
They exchange a bit of a friendly knowing glance, and the Enterprise heads back toward the Milky Way galaxy. And credits. What did you have for sort of the bigger themes of this one?
I don't know if I had anything really. I mean, it was the whole, our fascination with ESP and whenever a human, or the possibility of a human having more power than everyone else.
Right.
And how we treat that person. Some people worship them and some people think of them as evil and are afraid of them.
And
it's weird.
And some people give a lot of money to have somebody else tell them about their future.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, oh, yes, I can see into your future. Give me $100.
Right. And then there's the other side of it.
I'll tell you your future if you go to Patreon right now.
Yeah.
I will make up some dumb shit that you're not going to.
We can tell your future.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Then there's the other side of it. Like, if you think that you might have more power than someone else, or you might somehow be better than someone else, then why do you suddenly become evil? Why do you treat everyone else as bugs that as Mitchell put it, could squash everyone like a bug? So
that is a great question that I hadn't considered. The idea that is it an unquestionable, unchangeable path for someone to become all powerful? Do they necessarily become corrupted and evil?
Yeah.
Why couldn't God have created everyone and been like,
okay,
cool,
my
everything's
children,
great now.
You're my children. I'm going to take care of you. Nothing to worry about here. Yeah. I'm not evil. That kind of thing.
Right.
But no.
But instead, he creates everyone broken. He's created evil.
Yeah.
He's a monster.
Right.
Is that
is that
God's
inevitable?
Were to exist,
is it inevitable for them to be that way?
Yeah.
And is it inevitable for us to either worship them or fear them?
Wow.
That was my thing.
That's a good
and
one.
I didn't even write shit down because I was like, I'm always literally afraid of you when you ask me this question.
Oh gosh, why?
I was like, because I sometimes don't necessarily
pick up what's going on,
write it down until I have a conversation with you and go through and think about it.
Yeah,
yeah.
Because a lot of it comes up when we're talking about it in the scene.
100%, and sometimes it's better that way because it's real, it's organic, and
absolutely. Yeah, this idea of godhood. And what do we do with someone who's getting out of our control, and you can't.
Well, some people worship them, but I don't know.
Or you drop a rock on them.
Oh yeah, you drop a rock on them, you put them in a hole.
Yeah,
you blow up a planet. I don't know. Yeah, you get the fuck away from them.
We are assembled here today to pay final respects to our honored dead.
So we have 9, 10, 11, 12 people. And so I've got the 9 dead from an unknown force when they got hit by the thing on the bridge. And then we've got Lieutenant Kelso, Dr. Elizabeth Daner. And
Kelso was going either way.
Yeah. I think
he was either going to hit the button or, yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, Kelso. And Lieutenant Commander Gary Mitchell. So we've got 12.
I assume you're loitering around here to learn what efficiency rating I plan to give your cadets.
Trainees, to the briefing room. Is that all you gotta say? What about my performance?
Aren't you dead?
I don't believe this was a fair test of my command abilities. There was no way to win.
There's no correct resolution. It's a test of character.
Now, what is that supposed to mean?
I am understandably curious.
May I ask you a question?
Who's been holding up the damn elevator?
All right, so we're back with Becca for our Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge answer to the question for Where No Man Has Gone Before. And the question was...
What unpredictable chaos ensued on the set during the filming of this episode?
And my answer was there was like a strike, like a writer's strike or something. Oh, God, fuck. That was Disney I was thinking of, the writer's strike that fucked up Disney's all thing. Okay.
Oh, back then? Back in the 60s?
Yeah, it was. I don't know if it was in the 60s or 30s or 40s or something. But yeah, there was a animator writer strike or something. I don't fucking know.
But
God,
I don't.
Damn it.
I don't know.
So now I'm questioning. I'm double.
But you don't know. But you don't know. I mean,
it could have been.
I don't know either.
All right.
And I would be guessing.
And you weren't sure. You had no idea.
I had no idea.
And so you guessed like contact lens, something to do with the
contact lenses for his weird eyes. I don't know. Maybe.
What's our answer?
The answer is a wasp nest in the rafters of the studio was disturbed, and many of the cast and crew members were stung. This took place on a Friday. The weekend break allowed time for the swelling to go down for most of the crew. However, William Shatner required additional makeup to hide the stings during shooting the following Monday.
Oh, wow.
No, how the fuck would we have known that?
No way we would know that.
That's the whole point of this gig.
I would know it. Yeah. Yeah. There's no way you would know unless you happen to have heard something.
For those of you keeping score at home.
All right.
0 for me.
No, we're a team, I think, here.
Oh, no, I have you separated.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I mean, we can...
Gotta have a competition.
So we'll do a competition score and a like combined us versus Becca score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So far,
okay,
I have stumped you 3 out of 4 times.
Fuck.
Yeah, we only got 1 right.
You got 1 right.
These are ridiculous questions.
They're good, though.
You know
They're
what?
really good.
I take my job very seriously.
Thank you, question lady. It's so good.
Lady.
It was really good.
So the next episode we're going to watch is The Naked Time. The Enterprise crew catch a virus that removes their inhibitions. Okay, this is like classic Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I pretty well remember a lot. I think I remember a lot about this episode. Do you remember much about it? Okay. And our question for The Naked Time is...
What happens in this episode that, interestingly, never happens again in the rest of the series?
What?
she's stumping us.
This is hot. She's
stumping
too
us.
Much.
Wow.
I think she has a pretty fucked up view of what our knowledge of Star Trek is.
I know, but like
I'm a fan, but I'm not.
I don't know anything that happens behind the scenes, or I don't know have those little statistics.
Okay,
type
so
things.
Look, the only thing I remember about this episode is Sulu jabbing his way down the hallway
with no shirt on.
With no shirt on.
Okay,
I
remember
Is it
that.
the only time Sulu is topless? That's the only thing I can come up with.
You know what? I agree. If I could get on board, I will agree with that answer, and that would be because he was shirtless.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I've ever seen him shirtless anywhere else. I don't know.
Yeah. So if you want to play along with us on the Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge, go to your social media, answer the question, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. I even check Instagram if you want to do that. You can answer your question. Doesn't have to be the right answer. Could just be the funniest answer. No cheating. And use the hashtag Starfleet Challenge, and we'll pick a winner, and you'll have the bragging rights.
Let's get right to business.
Fine, I'm authorized to pay an equitable price.
Federation has invested a great deal of money in our training. They're about due for a small return.
Listen, we pay our percentages. We're entitled to a little service for our money, huh?
Is this the way your citizens do business? Their right of petition?
They pay their percentages and the boss takes care of them.
Is there anything else?
So now we'd like to thank our patrons. Again, lots of great ways you can support the show. You can share out the episodes to your friends and let them know how nerdy you are. You can
give us money.
You can give us money. Right. Money is fantastic and we love it. I know we're all struggling for that cashless socialist heaven in the future. But for now, we've got bills to pay. And so if you could head over to patreon.com/humanisttrek for as little as $3 a month, that'll help us a lot. And we sure will appreciate you. Next time on Humanist Trek, Season 1, Episode 5, The Naked Time, the Enterprise crew catch a virus that removes their inhibitions.
This type of episode has been done so many times, and not just Star Trek, but like other sci-fi stuff, like Stargate, you name it, X-Files, you name it. It's been done where they get a hold of something and they act crazy.
Yep.
So,
well, it's funny because we were watching this episode, and at the end, I was like, "Oh, I got to tell Allie, we're not going to have this one watched in time. We're going to have to push some stuff back."
That's fine.
And I said, "The Naked Now," and I was like, "The Naked Time? Wait, it's not The Naked Time. It's The Naked Now." I thought for sure Paramount and all the other websites had it wrong. Well, I went into Google, and The Naked Now is this exact same episode, basically, in The Next Generation. So
that's crazy.
They repeated the exact same thing in Next Gen.
Is it exactly the same?
It's not like beat for beat, like the
same concept. They
Strange New Worlds episode was. But yeah, same idea. They get a virus and it makes everybody go crazy.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's The Naked Time. And we will be reviewing that on the next episode. Thanks for listening, everybody. And we hope to see you next week. Bye.
Live long and prosper.
Kapla.
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcasts. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/humanisttrek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com. And visit our website, humanisttrek.com.